Hi, everyone. Welcome back to Beyond the Box, a podcast about supply chains. I'm Nicole Allam, and I'll be one of your hosts today.
And I'm Cecilia Larson, your other host. I'm really pleased to welcome everyone here today, but I'd especially like to welcome Simon Oxley, Global Head of Business Development at Mass Contract Logistics, and
Amita Maheshwari, the Global Head of Supply Chain Development at Maersk. We're really happy to have both of you here today.
Thank you. It's so good to be here.
Thank you, Nicole and Cecilia. It's a pleasure to be here.
Thank you guys so much for joining us. I don't know if you know this, but Nicole and I are pretty much warehousing nerds. We think it's so interesting. So we've been so excited about this that we have. So just to kick us off, Simon, can you explain the current trends you're seeing in warehousing and how are those going to shape the future of supply chain management?
Yeah, sure. The first thing that I say I'm seeing now, but I actually say I've been seeing for the last 25 years, is that the size of distribution centers is getting larger. It's increasing, and it's driven by a number of things. In particular, it's driven by technology. I don't want to give away my age, but many years ago when I started in the industry, the systems we used didn't really allow us to control very large distribution centers effectively. And even the labor management tools we had made it hard to manage large pools of labor in the DCs. As the technology has got better, then we've developed much, much bigger facilities. And this drives a number of other things in the industry. And as an example, we get economy of scale, clearly. The management teams can look after a larger footprint. They can look after a larger throughput. But it also allows us to invest in those facilities in a more targeted way. Because we're doing it in such a large scale, we can invest in sustainability, we can invest in automation. So we're seeing larger facilities. On average, our footprint size, at Maersk, we operate 500 facilities plus around the world, and the average footprint size is increasing and has been increasing, and I think it will continue to. And that helps us, as I said, it gives us economy of scale. It allows us to invest more for sustainable solutions, and it invest more in the automation within the facilities. So I think that the trends around sustainability and automation are helped by that size. That's probably the first big one I would talk about. The second one I'm seeing is that the customers are looking for more integrated solutions. And whereas in the past, we might have been looking at just running the DC operations inside the four walls, we're seeing our solutions now maybe starting at the port or the factory, moving all the way through to maybe a regional DC, into a local DC, and then out to the end customer. And again, systems are helping us do this in a sort of more holistic way. We can link the supply chain using the technology and control from end to end. And many of our customers are coming to us with that requirement for an integrated solution. So there are a couple of the key things that I see changing, and I think will continue to change.
Fantastic. And just to clear up for some of the people that might not know what a DC is, it's a distribution center. Amita, do you have anything to add to that?
Yeah, it's an exciting space. So, I mean, from my perspective, it's been quite some time since when warehousing has evolved from being just a cost center into a true competitive advantage. I mean, these are definitely nodes in the supply chain that are transforming how goods flow. They're transforming how data is used for the benefit of the business, and definitely how companies add value, right? So I think in addition to what Simon already pointed out, from a customer's perspective, speed is the new shelf space, right? So all the trends of faster deliveries or next day deliveries are also, kind of leading to new archetypes of warehousing. Right, and certainly not limited to the four box or the four walls, as Simon was saying. I think what I'd also add is the talent upskilling, that's going on in parallel, and we could even say that it's a massive enabler. So all the automation, the robotics, or wearable tech that kind of allows to capture data and do some proactive, maybe course corrections, while on flow. That cannot really come to an optimized level of use until the people are actually upskilled around it, right? So I also see that happening quite a lot in the industry, and I think it's a positive side effect or by effect, because it does cause us to kind of push the entire sort of boundary forward.
Great. That's really helpful to kind of give us the foundation of the conversation. So the next question that we have for you is, looking into the future, of warehousing. What do you see are the biggest challenges that we're facing in the future of warehousing, and how are they being addressed? And I think we'll start with Amita on this one.
Yeah, thanks. I think in some sense, we could even say that the biggest challenges are probably the other side of the coin of the emerging trends, right? Because as new trends emerge, they come with their own sort of new challenges or new issues to solve. So I just spoke of, the need or the scope of talent upskilling, which in other sense also means that there is a labor shortage and skill gaps, right? So that's definitely an area where companies such as ourselves or the companies that own products definitely are investing or should invest. And again, the need to get products soon enough or fast enough is causing the warehouses to move a little bit closer to denser areas of population, and that does cause a clash with urbanization in some sense, right? So I think those are a couple of challenges. There are, of course, solutions also being created on the side, right? So we're talking about optimizing the same floor space a lot better, looking at the vertical rationalization of warehousing, not just lateral. And we are also definitely in a space where all aspects of supply chain, not just warehousing, but definitely warehousing also getting impacted by the external factors. So since beginning of this year, we have already been seeing quite a lot of fluctuation in the shipping plans, in the bookings that are coming, every day or every week. And surely such a random change in plan does cause a downstream impact on how warehousing capacities are managed, right? So all of these are current challenges. Some are, I think, resultant of progress and evolution, and some are just factors of how the world is behaving right now.
Just from I guess, an operational and frontline point of view. First one is around sustainability. If you look at Maersk, we've signed up for science-based targets, net zero by 2040, we should. And if you look at the investments that we're making in warehouses or distribution centers right now, those buildings will still be active in 2040. So decisions we're making right now around sustainability within the new distribution centers are critical, because if we're going to hit the targets in 2040, we have to be planning those right now. If we think of transportation, for example, it's critical, but not quite as critical, because vehicle fleets might be replaced every 7, 8, 9 years. So vehicle fleets that are put in place now, they probably won't be operating in 2040, but distribution centers certainly will. So that's one. There's a building sustainability requirements into new facilities, right now. I think the second one is around resilience. I'm touching a bit here on what Amita has said. The world is much more volatile. It feels like, maybe it's because of 24-hour news, I don't know, but it feels much more volatile. And if I look back in my career lifetime, I can remember the currency crisis in Asia in 97, the banking crisis in 2000, or global economic crisis in 2008. But then we hit COVID, and we had the Red Sea crisis, resulting in a lot of changes in ocean. The current trade or global trade landscape has changed quite recently, and all of these things are impacting our business. We need to be much more much more agile, much more able to change. And I'm hoping the world settles back down, but it feels like volatility is the new normal, I guess. And so I think that's a second challenge for us. The last one is around automation. And as Amita said, the trends are often the opposite side of the challenge coin in terms of challenges. And the challenges around automation are that automation can make us much more efficient, but it does need a lot of upfront investment. And that means we need partnerships with our customers, which will endure the length of that investment. Historically, a traditional warehouse, we may be able to enter 3 or 5 year contracts with customers. And because it's traditional and it's pretty standard equipment and the investment is not too high in a standard warehouse, then 3 to 5 year contracts would be manageable. But with some of the investment in automation, massive improvement in efficiency, but big upfront costs. So longer term relationships, much more strategic relationships needed with our customers so that we can sort of implement automation for the benefit of both of us. But it does require a more strategic and longer term relationship. So that's another one that I see coming.
That makes a lot of sense. And I was going to say resilience is definitely here to stay as a trend.
Yeah.
So thank you, because that's really what this podcast is based on, is this need for resilience through such volatile times, because it's change is here to stay for sure.
Absolutely. I was just going to point out that I think that we're seeing, and I think our customers, as well as, anyone else, like you said, disruption has become the new norm. In line with what you were actually saying about automation, a key component of that is tech, is having the right tech. So how is technology transforming warehousing operations? And do you have a few examples that signify improved efficiency in warehousing?
Automation, particularly around storage, has been quite common for many years. We have a system in the industry called ASRS, Automated Storage and Retrieval Systems. This is where full pallets are put on a conveyor and then taken away and put into a dense storage area, racking usually by automated cranes. Very, very popular for high storage operations, but really relatively inflexible because the pallet size load can't change very much. You build the building, and for 20 years you need to be putting full pallets in and bringing full pallets out. There's not much flexibility there. And again, long-term investment. What's really become obvious for us over the last 10 years or so is that we're putting in much more modular automated solutions where we are finding great new technology that can handle or fix one process. And that process might be sortation, or it might be packing, or one of the processes within the warehouse. Maybe it's retrieval of cartons for pick pack. So, maybe there's an automated guided vehicle, an AGV, small robot that goes off and pulls a shelf to the, we would call it goods to person operation. So for the picking process. So we're seeing many more solutions, which are much more nimble and very modular. The second one I'll mention is around artificial intelligence. And everybody talks about artificial intelligence going to change the world, but I'm more interested in individual use cases. Where are we using it and what's it actually doing for us? We've got a massive operation in the US, what we call a transload operation. So products coming in on container from overseas and being distributed around the US into customers' depots or customers' distribution centers. Massive high turnover of full container loads coming in, full containers going out, but quite a bit of sortation. So unloading, sortation, and reloading. And we've got an AI solution, I guess is the right word, put in place there with CCTV cameras that can see all of the loading docks, and they can monitor the unloading, looking and in real time calculate the productivity of unloading of these containers and recommend which loading docks are going to become free at what time, what is the next container that should come on, and then how many people we should be putting into various parts of the operation to sort of balance the workload in that warehouse. This is happening in real time, and the AI is actually analyzing the CCT software the CCTV feeds in real time within the warehouse. Big increase in productivity. And it's being linked now to the yard management system, which is helping us to move containers around the yard much more effectively. I don't want to talk for too long on it because there's a third phase, which is linking it to the transport movements from the port into that DC, which we're expecting to see. It's actually about triangulation of vehicles so that we can use vehicles for backhauling and how efficiently we can use the vehicles. Effectively, the AI there is making massive efficiency improvements on a really high volume operation. So I guess the two things really. One is around the automation in the warehouse, and the second one is around how AI can help us plan and be more efficient in real time.
I think that was so much information, but also really useful information. It's so interesting.
Too much.
No, absolutely not. It's so interesting to see how tech can really help on a grand scale and on a smaller scale to add efficiency to overall operations.
Yeah.
Amita, do you have anything to add to that? Have you seen any light cases?
I want to share an experience which for me was actually quite fascinating and kind of goes to say how far we can go pragmatically with this, right? But I had the pleasure of visiting one of our operations in Japan, and for one of our again global customers, and of course a lot of robots moving around and the AI were kind of giving cool insights to our team. But what truly fascinated me the most was that this one corner where we still had a team kind of doing something, doing some picking by hand. And I asked, why have we not deployed any robots here? And the manager of the site said, well, we have analyzed this and now we have data to tell us that this is better done by people. Right. And for that particular customer, for sure. Right. So for me, that was fantastic. It's sort of, getting to that next level and obviously having the experience in managing the customer's business for years that, we're almost able to bring it to the next level of optimization and which I think the popular term for that is co-roboting or human-robot collaboration. But yeah, I think if I talk about really the innovative solutions, I just really wanted to spotlight the point that Simon made in the opening part, which is to say that we have to look at all innovation in a sort of a connected fashion, right? So whatever happens at a transload facility or the way our destination DCs or warehouses can be optimized. A lot of times the solution or the bright idea actually sits somewhere upstream. And we have, or at least I have seen examples where by tweaking the processes and the way we put cartons inside the container on the origin side, that has a really good downstream impact on improving the productivity, right? So I think this is the message that it's obviously quite meaningful to look at the puzzle in total.
That makes a lot of sense. And, as we think about disruption being the new normal, as we were just discussing, and to me, some of the disruptions I think about are natural disasters or pandemics. Hopefully we don't have another one anytime soon, but it's all in our recent memory. I'm also thinking about risks. And how do you mitigate the risks associated with warehousing, such as inventory loss or damage? And, what kind of strategies should people be using to ensure the continuity of operations during disruptions like the ones I just mentioned?
I think I would say that in warehousing, risk is not a one-time event. It's almost a daily variable, right? It's like gravity. It's always there. You may not see it, but it's something that the teams that are managing operations have to think about or keep a margin for and keep planning for it. And I guess I say that because of so many things have to come together to make a really effective and impactful warehousing operation. Right. So, to your point, Nicole, the risks, definitely related to inventory loss, damage and shrinkage, as we call it. It's always been there. And I don't know if there's ever a place in future where they will go away completely. But definitely having smart surveillance, better alerts, guardrails, and IoT-enabled sensors. I think that's one way the technology helps us to mitigate the risks. The other is definitely about cybersecurity and data integrity. We've spent so much time talking about automation, using artificial intelligence, and the more the technology, the higher the need of better firewalls, right? So as more and more things start to go online, and not just for our business or customers' business, but also the partners that they're working with, the greater the need to build cybersecurity, right? Then, of course, there is a third risk, which is, again, always present, which is related to natural disasters or, external breakdowns and so on. And in my experience and knowledge, I think companies that are able to deal with those risks the best, or better than others, I should say, are the ones that are constantly kind of doing a BCP discussion, a business continuity planning discussion, right? Where you're sitting with your partners and you're simulating various scenarios where things could go wrong. And these are, mind you, these are not easy conversations because you have to imagine, the worst for your business. But I think they go a long way, because that's when people, should an actual situation arise, that's when they're actually most capable of taking an action. And I just want to, for a minute, also talk about, let's say, a risk regarding warehousing strategy. And I think this is also a positive change where more customers, more companies are realizing that warehouse is not a singular facility strategy, right? You can't go facility by facility. And that's where it's important to look at the network. You could look at a network at a regional level or a global level, whatever the business demand or the type of products there are. But it's important to kind of think about a forward-looking strategy that is not always looking like, the solution we have in place today, right? So that would be maybe a sort of a strategic level risk and risk mitigation that I would call out.
It's all about evolution. It's about keeping up with the trends and also understanding where we can best utilize our energy and our resources. Speaking to that, if you look down the line 5-10 years, what do you see the future of warehousing being, and how can companies prepare for the evolving landscape of it?
So many businesses, global businesses, have signed up for the 2040 science-based targets. That if we look down the next, 14 years away, the next 14 years, all of us need to be on that path to net zero. So that's clearly going to be a big driver of decisions or investments over the next 14 years. The second thing is around things being larger. I remember when we opened large warehouses 25 years ago that were 20,000 square meters. We're opening a warehouse in Malaysia this year of about 150,000 square meters. So that's like 7-8 times bigger. Let's say 7 times bigger. I can't imagine we're going to be 7 times bigger in another 20 years. That would be crazy. It'd be, I don't even know what the size of that would be, 20 football fields or something. But I don't think it's going to carry on at the same rate of growth. But it is these sites are going to get bigger, driven by technology and economy of scale, wanting to invest in the sustainable and technological automated solutions. So I definitely think there is more room for the growth in the sort of size and scale of warehouses. The AI that I mentioned earlier that was helping us unloading and loading trucks and the yard management. I see AI in our business really around driving efficiency solutions, around efficiency of the manpower, efficiency of the processes, and I'm sure there's other people that are much more intelligent than me that are off looking at other uses for AI. But from an operational point of view, I can see the benefits in manpower planning and process planning and so on. So
I think one trend that's already here and it might intensify is what we call flexible warehousing or on-demand warehousing, right? I mean, as the sites go bigger, there would also be hopefully more room for companies like ourselves to offer more agile, more flexible solutions to the customers, right? And the other thing, again, with all the investments in automation and the modularity on warehousing, I think the scope for partnership between companies and service providers that'll deepen. So we expect and we already see a lot more solutions that are co-created. Companies our customers are willing to share more about their strategies, how they want to solve different problems or even partake on new opportunities, and that creates a space for a continuous sort of partnership model or co-creation model, right?
My favorite question to ask at the end is always, what is one takeaway that you'd like our listeners to remember? So we'll start with you, Amita, and then we'll go to Simon.
Yeah, I think it's already been a very rich discussion. I guess there's maybe only one thing that's left to be said, right? I mean, surely warehouses are not or no longer just the back end of the business, right? They're almost the beating heart of the supply chains, right? So I'd say that first and foremost, it is important for any company to establish the outcome that the business needs, right? Does the business need speed? Does it need agility? Does it need reliability for new launches? So that's one very important factor that companies need to establish. Equally important is to be transparent and cognizant of the constraints that are existing, because surely all companies have them, right? Some constraints are because of other priorities, and some are just because, we're launching a new technology. And then bring those two together to have a very open and a forward-looking discussion within the company, but also with your service providers. So I think that's how that would be my ending note. Look at the outcome that the business needs from the supply chain, and then create the strategy in cognizance of that.
Thank you. And Simon?
Yeah, I'm trying to see how much I can get away with in your one takeaway. Maybe I'll call it one
and a
long
half
sentence.
takeaways.
I'll call it one long sentence. But I guess and really it comes back to the customer a little bit, like Amita said. But I guess our customers should be able to enjoy from either Maersk or the industry more modern, sustainable, automated distribution centers that are managed or made more efficient by artificial intelligence and/or technology. If I had to put it in a sentence, it would be something along those lines. Basically, we as a supplier and other suppliers, I'm sure, will be supplying much more modern, sustainable, automated facilities. I think that's my key takeaway.
Well, thank you both very, very much for joining us today. I think it's safe to say that Cecilia and I really enjoyed learning more from you, and it gives us more material to nerd out on later. So thank you very much. That does it for today's episode of Beyond the Box. If you loved what you heard, which we hope you did, we hope that you hit subscribe and like, and we look forward to seeing you for our next episode very soon.